il GariwoNetwork è la rete non solo italiana ma internazionale di tutti i
This is the organization gathering all the representatives of the Gardens of the Righteous, and we are talking about associations, teachers, municipalities, and other entities that are part of it. And there are people who, with their commitment, a voluntary commitment, have created or are helping us to organize the Gardens of the Righteous, both in Italy and abroad. Since GariwoNetwork was born, it was 2017, so 5 to 6 years ago. And so we have worked on Gardens of the Righteous, and today there are approximately 200 gardens, and we can be actually very proud of not only about Gariwo, but also about our commitment and the fact that we managed to cross Italian borders and that we can now embrace the whole world. This morning, in this very quick meeting, which will last approximately 1 hour, we would like to talk about this project. One is Italian, and a garden, which is in Warsaw, Poland. And we would like to present some of the projects and tools that we can use to implement the collaboration between Gariwo and the international network. So let me invite on the stage the reference of the Warsaw Garden of the Righteous, and she heads the body that follows that. And we have the president of the association and also a collaborator for educational network. And we have our guests here. Let's start with you. The Warsaw Garden of the Righteous was born in 2014, and it is among Gariwo's first international collaborations. And you know, it's a project that we really care a lot about. Can you tell us about this project and about the collaboration between Gariwo and the House of Encounters with History? Good morning. First of all, I wanted to thank you for your invitation, and I would like to the idea of the Warsaw Garden was born in 2008. And the idea was to commemorate the history of memory. And so we organized an international conference in Warsaw for the righteous. And so this was our starting point. We wanted to extend the concept of the righteous among the nations, and slowly but surely we arrived in 2012, and we launched an appeal at the European Parliament to try and institute the Day of Remembrance on the 6th of March, which was a very important date for us, because it was who was a Jew who passed in Poland, and he was a very important individual who took part in the different initiatives that the Garden of the Righteous has organized. And for the concept and the definition of the righteous. And after the project that we organized together with Gariwo at the Royal Castle of Warsaw, we have launched the idea of building a Garden of the Righteous. In 2013, the former Prime Minister in Poland established a committee to support the creation and the building of a Garden of the Righteous in Warsaw. The following year, the mayor of a neighborhood in Warsaw offered a place and proposed to dedicate this area to build the garden in 2014. And we have collaborated with them. Thank you. You were talking about 2012 because this was important. The Day of the Righteous was established on the 6th of March. As Anna was saying, it was the date of the passing of Moshe Besky. And in 2017, after the Day of the Righteous, the Italian Parliament passed a law, an act, instituting the Day of the Righteous of humanity, of humankind. And as Gariwo, as we are now talking about the international network of gardens, our ambition, our project, our dream, we can define it as it is that an increasing number of countries all over the world can have parliaments confirm and approve the Day of the Righteous, so that it is not a European or an Italian celebration. It can become a day for all the righteous in the world, celebrated all the righteous in the world. Let me come back to you, Anna. I wanted to specify this, but it was important for our audience. You were talking about the birth of Warsaw Garden, and with the long preparation work in 2008, and it was made in 2014. We know that, of course, the timing in other countries as well are always particularly long, and Warsaw is an example of that. And 8 years later, we are here to talk about Warsaw Garden and the collaboration that is becoming increasingly strong. My question is, what does the Garden of the Righteous represent in Poland? What does it mean to talk about the universal righteous in your country? I think it is very important because we had two totalitarianism, communism and Nazism. And our garden is in the former ghetto area, which is a very important place for us, for Polish people, and all over the world, as 400,000 Jews were exterminated here. And also in Warsaw, before the Second World War, we had the largest Jewish community in Europe. So this is why it is a place full of symbols and meaning. And close to the garden, you can also see the prison of Adriatic, where Gestapo imprisoned and killed clandestine Polish fighters. And behind the garden, the church of St. Augustine stands, where priests used to hide Jewish people and also gave them fake documents. And very close to the garden, there is also an institute where Janusz Czortat worked. It is an orphanage, and he was somebody very important for the Warsaw ghetto. So this part, this area is very, very unique, and it has a strong meaning. Thank you, Anna. And in the meantime, you have seen some images of the Garden of the Righteous in Warsaw, which is also similar for the choice of memorial stones that are placed in commemoration of the righteous, and it's similar to Milan Garden. And as Milan Garden, like Milan Garden, it is in a very peculiar setting. Warsaw Garden, as Anna was saying, is in the former ghetto area. In Milan, we have it on the rubble of the Second World War. And so with these gardens, we also try to tell stories of good through the planting of trees that represent life and the future, precisely where there are rubbles of war, where crimes were committed. So this is a positive message, not only for the stories that are told in the garden, but also to prove that where evil was committed, where tragedies took place, and where war and death and suffering occurred, life can be restored. One last question to you before giving the floor to the other two friends of Gariwo. What are the future projects that the Warsaw Garden of the Righteous, but also the collaboration between Gariwo and the House of Encounters with History are going to implement? Can you tell us something about that? Maybe quickly give us some hints on future plans. Next year, we will celebrate the 10th anniversary of the Warsaw Garden. And then we will also have the 80th anniversary of the rebellion of Warsaw Ghetto. These are two very important dates for us. And so we are getting ready with the projects for our future. And we also have in mind the idea of having a closer friendship with Gariwo, a stronger bond between Warsaw Garden and Gariwo. But I think we will talk about that later, about this. We will probably introduce it, hopefully, at 2024 network meeting. This is just a hint on the fact that we would like to consolidate our collaboration. Thank you very much, Anna, for your words and for also choosing to take the floor in Italian. You speak it very well. Thank you so much. And before moving on with the other contributions, I would like to show you a video that I personally shot approximately 2 weeks ago in Neve Shalom Watal Salam, which in Hebrew and Arabic means oasis of peace. It is a cooperative village in Israel, inhabited by Palestinian Arabs and Israeli Jews, founded in 1972 on an approximately 100-acre plot rented from the nearby monastery of Latrun. The members of Neve Shalom Watal Salam approximately 50 years ago decided to live together, to coexist, which proved that coexistence is possible. The village is run democratically, and it is owned by its own inhabitants and is not affiliated with any political party or movement. We would like to show you this video because with Neve Shalom Watal Salam, Gariwo has started a collaboration years ago, and we have created the Garden of the Righteous once again that is linked to Milan Garden of the Righteous. So the Garden of the Righteous, as you will see in the images of the video and in the words of our friends Diana and Inat, was redeveloped and requalified some years ago, and it has recreated a small amphitheater similar to the one of Milan, to pinpoint the importance of the Garden of the Righteous as a place of encounter, of meeting, dialogue, exchange. So not only a place that is visited and experienced internally, personally by students, tourists, and visitors, but also a place where one can also have an exchange and some words with participants in the visit, in the tour. And we will show you these two short videos.
Hi, my name is Diana Shalufi Rizé. I was from the beginning with Professor Yair Oron, the founder of the Rescuers Garden, thanks to Gariwo, and I'm the founder of the art gallery. Neve Shalom Wahd Salam is a village that people, Palestinians and Jews from Israel, decided to live side by side and make a village, educational and real living, and we share the ministry of education. We share everything together, and we try our best. And it's not easy living the conflict, but we never raise our hands because it's something very important for us all. We have 90 families, half, and most of the families send their kids to the primary school from the nursery, kindergarten, and to the sixth grade. Then they go out, sometimes separate. We create like a nadi, which is like a youth club for them, so they can meet afternoon and to continue to be together and share things together. We want to strengthen them, and they are strong enough to go out and to continue. We have the School for Peace that runs a lot of educational things, and we have the spiritual center, and we have all those facilities. They are very important. We are really independent. We doesn't belong to any political party. We pay a lot, and we have donations from all over the world. Thank you for your support.
Hello, my name is Zeinat Betzalel. I'm the director of the Pluralistical Spiritual Community Center in Wahd Salam Neve Shalom. I'm also in charge of the rescue gardens here in the village. I see the rescue garden as the foundation of the center. The stories of the place and the trees that are lying on, for us, is the combination of the local atmosphere and the global stories that we all should share. I tell about the law in Israel, about the olive tree. The olive tree, you cannot take them out from the ground. It's a law. So in this garden, we choose to take the story that you cannot take the story from a person, and you cannot take the tree from the ground, and to combine them together. So it will be forever. And this garden is also one of the entrance to the village. So this is how to welcome people with all the atmosphere that the garden gives when they enter to Wahd Salam Neve Shalom.
Let me thank Inat and Diana for this video. I know they are following us in this very moment from their village, and I would like to say hi, of course. In Neve Shalom Wahd Al Salam village, one of the characteristics is that they have a school where Palestinian Arabs and Israeli Jews study together, and talking about schools welcoming and hosting students having different identities and different religions. I would like to give the floor to Maria Chiara Billi. As we said at the beginning, she is the project manager of the Collegio del Mondo Unito from Duino. Chiara will tell us a little bit about the mission of and the characteristics of this school. Duino is a school that has students from all around the world, and in particular in Duino we have the Italian premises close to Trieste. Chiara, tell us something, please, about this school and about the mission of Collegio del Mondo Unito. Good morning, and thank you so much for inviting us today. I would like to, of course, share the greetings of President Ambassador Cristina Ravaglia and the Secretary General Valentina Bach. The Collegio del Mondo Unito dell'Adriatico is the only school of the UWC network with 18 premises all over the world. And there are students coming from any country, regardless of their background, social and economic background. In our school in particular, we have over 170 students coming from 80 different nationalities. And these students come from very miscellaneous, very different contexts. So there are national commissions in different areas, and they are selected based on credit, on merit. The EWC movement was born based on a very smart insight of Kurt Ahn, a German Jew, who more than 60 years, when the first school was founded in Wales, understood, realized that the need to achieve peace and negotiation was to try and educate young minds, aged 16 to 19, which is the age of our students, so that they could sit at a table and understand the others and have a dialogue with the others. So the educational system of our colleges is an education system offering the international baccalaureate, and it's not only innovative in terms of education, it also provides some extracurricular activities, including the Garden of the Righteous. The point we share with Gariwo, that we have immediately realized, something we have in common with our college, but also all around the world, is our common goal, our common end, that is stimulate young minds, future adults, future men and women of the world, in different ways, through empathy, sympathy, understanding, comprehension, and as Hegel would say, also self-conscience. That is, conscience of oneself, but this is because you know the other. And in our colleges, youngsters coming from countries in conflict, Kosovo, Serbia, Israel, Palestine, Russia, Ukraine, and now I can think about this country too. Well, they come to us, they are very young, and they are basically forced to live together and to have a relationship with those who have been considered up to that point the enemies, the supporters maybe of destruction of their cities, of their house. And so somehow, through the coexistence in colleges, the residential life, the educational system, and activities like Gariwo's, they are forced to dialogue, to an ethical and moral education. We read an editorial article of President Nissim, and this inspired the Secretary General Valentina. And he was talking about the fact that youngsters really want to find a new challenge. Every time has a new challenge. Of course, we have wars, we have conflicts. But one of the biggest challenges for youngsters, and we saw that last week during one of our activities, is knowledge of oneself, the defense of one's identity, the respect of others. And so it was natural for us to create this bond, this relationship between the school and Gariwo. Thank you, Chiara. In Duino's premises, Collegio del Mondo Unito, in 2020, during the pandemic, we virtually opened a Garden of the Righteous, and with some luck, it was the first garden for the schools that are part of the network. So this closeness, this bond between Collegio del Mondo Unito and Gariwo led us, after the virtual opening and then the actual opening of the garden, to also reflect on how to go on and to consolidate and better structure our relationship. Sorry. Some months ago, we signed a memorandum of understanding Gariwo and the Collegio, and it envisages a number of educational and training activities for students, for the students of the school, but also the possibility to create more gardens of the righteous in other premises, be them European, but also all over the world. My question is, what can we expect from the future of this collaboration between our two entities, and how could projects and collaborations be created also with some gardens that are in other countries that are not in Italy? On the 19th of September, the Memorandum of Understanding was signed by Gariwo and Collegio dell'Adriatico, and our common points were pinpointed, but also our common goals, including something we are already doing, that is developing some shared activities aimed at study, at research, and at identifying individuals from all over the world, because those who select the righteous are the students coming from different countries, and make it possible for the garden. Our garden is in Villa Lucchese. It is in a residence. There are 18 righteous, and it was dedicated to Giulio Regeni, who is a former student of these colleges, and our school is really fond of this. And so we will continue with the selection of the righteous, with our research, but we will mainly try to create a very strong bond with the area, the territory. So we not only want to have this garden in the college, we would like to have it in the entire village of Duino. And our next steps will be to disseminate the importance of remembrance and the celebration of the righteous also among our colleagues who are in other countries, in Europe and all around the world, so that our goal can be reached. That is, these places must not only be the result of a research which is performed in our activities in the school, but also with other associations, neighboring associations. We want it to be a place of inspiration, intra and intergenerational inspiration. And by that, I mean that a student can select a name with other students, but he or she leaves a piece of heritage, so that when he or she is back, something that often happens, he or she can remember what his beginning was and what the individuals who inspired him or her were. So our goal will be to do our best to try and expand the network and to try and arrive in different places of the world. Thank you, Chiara. While you talk about the school, of course, we think about gardens of the righteous that we create all around the world. Gardens are universal places where men and women are honored, who fought in defense of the persecuted, who protected human dignity in different contexts of genocide or when crimes against humanity took place. And one of the most beautiful things when you enter a garden of the righteous is that you can find out that good is universal. It is universal because it is told by individuals, by righteous coming from all over the world, from different contexts, from different ages. And also when we host some students visiting the Garden of Milan from primary or secondary school, we realize that one of the most beautiful things is that they can discover a piece of world told by the plaques and by the memorial stones at the garden. And this is the actual power of the garden, because it is a place that tells several stories, not only one, not only two of them. And so when I listen to your story and I hear what you say about the school, about the background, the multicultural background of students, well, this reminds me a lot about the network of gardens. May I add just one small thing that I consider to be very important? And one of our righteous is a former student of our college, Lina Tahar. She's a journalist. She lives in Egypt. She is the co-founder of an independent newspaper. And for our students who started working in 2019 on the Gardens of the Righteous, she was a very important source of inspiration because she is not considered as a martyr. She is considered as somebody who was educated since her very first years to freedom. She fights for free speech. She constantly risks her life for that. And so these types of examples with the others are for students. And so for youngsters, she's a source of inspiration, meaning that there is awareness that this is a sacrifice, but this does not mean being a martyr. It's being part of a system that applies to all of us. Thank you, Chiara, for complementing your words with this message. I perfectly remember the virtual ceremony where we met Lina Tal, and the righteous of the gardens are a source of inspiration for all people who have the opportunity to visit the garden, especially students and teachers who are our main targets. So at the very same time, you talk about Lina and how she's a source of inspiration because youngsters, students of Collegio del Mondo Unito realize that the righteous, as yesterday Professor Taglia Pietra said, is not a saint or a hero. It is an individual who, in his or her context, makes a deed, an act of responsibility to help and defend the others. Thank you. And before talking with Sabrina, let me introduce another video. I would like to show you a short video that our colleague Joshua Evangelista shot a few weeks ago at the opening of the Garden of the Righteous in Halabja. Halabja is a Kurdish town in Iraqi Kurdistan, best known, unfortunately, for the genocide committed by Saddam Hussein in 1988, in which some 5,000 people lost their lives, and between 7,000 and 10,000 were injured. The garden was created in cooperation with an Italian non-profit organization, DAR NGO, a local association, UE, and also Halabja University. This is the first garden in Kurdistan and Iraq, and at the heart of the project and the collaboration of these entities is not only the dissemination of the stories of the righteous, but also the bond between the righteous and environmental protection. Here is the video.
My name is Qaisar Rahman. I am working in new organization for protecting environment and human rights. Also, I am founder of new organization. I want to talk about Halabja and Righteous Garden. Halabja city is one cities of Kurdistan region in Iraq. In 1988, chemical attack by Saddam Hussein regime. In that day, 5,000 civilians died and more than 10,000 people injured. Also, animal and trees in Halabja died and the city destroyed all the houses. We can't live it here until 3 years, until 1991. People came back here. We went to Iran. We live under the tent in the camp. And in 2012, I found a new organization. One sector working for the environment, because Halabja need a lot working for the environment. With another organization, Capital of Peace, together cooperation with them. Together we went to the municipality of Halabja, and they provided the land for us. And about 2 or 3 years, we write some proposal, and we spoke with some organization for support us to start the garden. And fortunately in 2018 we met with Mr. Alberto. He's working with Dari organization, and after that he came back to Italia. He talked with Gariwo organization, and they are support us. This support for us, it is big support, because it is first support, first starting to the work in the garden. This garden is dedicated as right was of humanity, and those people saved by genocide in Halabja, and we help other pupils and fighting against justice. But before the support of the Gariwo, it is just land, it is not anything. But after that, step by step, we working in the park. Hopefully now it is about more than 100 trees mulberry here, and 10% of the park finished, but now we need more support, we need more organization help us for complete it, for finishing the garden.
So let me greet Kaiser. I say hi also to all our friends who are following us from Halabja. This morning we are traveling together. We are doing that virtually, of course. We have been to Neve Shalom Moatar Salan in Kurdistan, and also in Poland through Anna's stories, and in Duino, thanks to Chiara's words. And talking about journeys, of course, I would also like to talk with Sabrina Di Carlo, whom we introduced as the president of the association Spostiamo Mari e Monti, and she's also collaborated with Gariwo for educational projects. So Sabrina, you have a long experience in organizing trips, journeys, and in particular remembrance journeys. Can you tell us what is the importance of this type of project, especially for young people, and what is your approach? Good morning, everybody. Thank you for inviting us here. This year, our ambition is to go back to traveling after these very difficult years. We were prevented from moving freely for reasons we all remember. And we are doing that with some new projects that we have defined the community of memory, of remembrance. So this is a training journey that we have organized with Gariwo and with a very large network of associations, Italian and Polish associations, that operate in historic research, in preservation and dissemination of memory and remembrance, and also in promotion of citizenship for youngsters. It is a journey that combines peer education and the tools of experiential educational tools, which is the journey. And let me stress that this is a very complex pathway. It's a strong and very complex educational journey along the entire school here. And so it's education to citizenship, which is also part of civic education journeys on the theme of historic memory. It is an attempt to remove celebrations from history, from the most pedagogical logic of memory. So we try to turn journeys into a cathartic tool, for activation, to trigger, to promote commitment and proactive citizenship among youngsters. So this is an attempt to bring knowledge of history and some events in particular that are difficult to be told, that are difficult to be told about without annihilating youngsters. And sometimes they lead to some rejection and some forced misinterest because youngsters find it hard to think about these events. And so we try to do that by specifying that knowledge is a very powerful tool we have in our hands, and that history is a tool for reading and understanding contemporary times. So as you were saying, we know the stories of the others to know ourselves. What was to imagine what will be. So youngsters are at the core of this, and we use tools, different tools, including peer education, giving them the floor, giving them responsibility, empowering them. This is the key for this type of journey to be successful. So peers deserve respect, and they deserve respect for their commitment, for the time they give to education of youngsters. They are similar to youngsters. They use the same language. They have the same fears, the same limits, and the same hopes. And so this kind of dynamic leads to exchange and to the building of trust, something that would be impossible in traditional relationships between teachers and learners that have a totally different values. And this is not replaced in our peer journey. They are enhanced by very different relationship logics. So as I said, this lasts some months in the school here. So there is some co-design stage and also involving some students so that the project is custom made and tailored based on the needs of these youngsters. They can be a third, fourth, or fifth year. They can already have some previous experience, and maybe they need to deep dive a little bit more in some topics. And after that, youngsters taking part in this pathway will meet peer educators who will take them through this journey, and the knowledge foundations that are essential will be laid to deal with the project, and also the dynamics of the group will start, which will accompany us through the journey. So we start with the experience of living together in a community atmosphere. It is a long and slow journey because it is by bus in most cases. Let's say a bus leaving in Rome and getting to Poland. So we are talking about many hours, for instance, in Krakow. And it is longer because it is very important to go closer to places and memories. And so it is slow, but very peculiar. It will be cold. There is community also in daily experiences, in hostels where there are large rooms where youngsters coexist. And so there is a very strong dimension in terms of community in this journey. And this also helps sharing complex emotional moments, not only logistically speaking, of course, for the duration and for the climate. These moments require reflection also through the journey. And so the days we will spend in Krakow will finish with the first plenary session of all participants, a large assembly, which is the first attempt to deal with the experience. And in the last few years, we have talked about words and tools of language to tell stories. And Manuela, as you said, we also talk about theater. And also through the journey, the language of theater will be present, and also with some peer education tools, because people of the theater troupe who will talk about their stories, and they're very young, they're slightly older than the participants, will manage to create a very close dialogue in this peer communication. And after a moment of break, of pause, of silence after such a strong experience, when they go back, it will be important to continue telling the stories. And storytelling is linked to the word gnarus, meaning aware in Latin, conscious. So if we combine words with the logical sense, we are more conscious about ourselves. So telling stories means to expose, to narrate, to describe stories and facts. And so our participants will talk about this experience to give it back to their school community, to citizens. In some cases, municipalities are partners of this journey because they can associate with the project so that youngsters of their territory can pay less and the experience can be at everybody's reach, of course. And as I said, these youngsters will try to tell their experience to citizens, and they will give a storytelling of their experience. So telling this can give a meaning to our actions. Hannah Arendt used to say that history, reveals the meaning of something that would remain an intolerable sequence of events. So not telling about them would make it this way. So this is the very first step towards the commitment. So the fact that they give this restitution their stories, and also some of these youngsters want to continue the journey as protagonists, so they feel at ease, at home in this traveling community. And so the following year, they attend a training journey to have peer education tools and become the protagonists of the coming journeys with slightly younger participants. So this is a way for the commitments of these young people to become reality. They can also do it in volunteering, in associations operating in the area, but they can also maybe stand up before an injustice, and they can feel the need, the responsibility to stand up and to act when injustice is committed. Let me just say a very short story, which I like to tell, that Legman told me. So it is the very last child who left Auschwitz concentration camp. I met him on several occasions with hundreds and sometimes some cases with thousands of youngsters wanted to listen to his story. And those who ask him if he continues telling his story for this never to happen again, he answers, it would be nice if it could never be repeated. And instead, we know that it happened again and that it still happens constantly. I do that because if after this, out of 1,000 youngsters, only one or two of you will make it possible for it to happen one time less, well, I will have achieved my goal. And I think it's beautiful. Yes, this is a very beautiful story, and thank you for talking about the project. As Sabrina was saying, this is the first time that Gariwo has organized these journeys of remembrance, and for 2022-2023, the first three journeys will be launched, stopping in Krakow, and Anna will confirm that in January it will be very cold. Well, it's already quite cold now in Krakow. And so the idea, this is a pilot project, but our idea is to collaborate with an increasing number of entities to increase the number of projects, more journeys going to other countries. And this is why, Sabrina, in your opinion, you have this very long experience in organizing this type of initiatives and also in the participation in European projects. How can we collaborate with all our partners, with entities abroad? Gariwo has already created a Garden of the Righteous with, or is creating it with. What type of projects can we imagine for the future? So throughout the week, we have already talked about that several times. We indeed feel the need to take care and to expand the network of entities that we share essential values with, to have common goals and common ends. And it must not be simply a group of people collaborating on a simple project, as it is, of course, but a group of people who look at each other and recognize each other with his or with individuals' peculiarities. So with a common goal, which tends to a common goal. And I think about a community of people who recognize each other and who decide to work for a common goal. And more, this need is felt, the need of having a strong network that can be a bulwark, as we used to say in this complex time, or on Monday with Vito Mancuso, we were talking about that. Professor Nissim was saying that these times are somber, are painful, are difficult, and mentioning the truth by Primo Levi, in the dialogue between Levi and the Greek, he said, the war is over, and the Greek answered, war is always. So these are not dramatic times. They are always dramatic times. And we live in this time. And this is the time we need to use our commitment to curb the events. So the stronger will be, the bigger will be the impact in limiting all these events in our conditions. And so after the pandemic, as I said, we wanted to travel again, and hopefully we can do that. And these days, events will not impact on our possibility to do so. And we decided to do that going to Krakow. We used to have different Italian and European destinations, and hopefully we will have them once again. But for the moment, we will focus on Krakow. We will focus our human resources on that, which is, of course, an unmissable destination for our experience. And it's also the home of one of our partner associations. And this means, to answer your question, that other entities of the network can be activated. And the association IMMIR is based in Krakow. And this facilitates our organization logistic and also the contacts with local entities. And also this way of reading history as an interpretation of the present. We will be meeting different associations, activists who are operating in Krakow on contemporary issues. So some associations working on the border with Ukraine to welcome refugees. And so we can talk to youngsters who are close and similar to the youngsters we will take to Poland. And so they meet, they will talk about what they do in their emergency. And so they can talk about best practice, they can exchange and in their way of speaking. And so similarly, we plan to start new destinations in the Czech Republic, in Prague, and we are ready to restore the network. And hopefully, well, we have worked since 2020 to create a Garden of the Righteous also in Prague, and this project was temporarily suspended due to the events of the last few years, but hopefully we can go on and do that. So in this case as well, it will be important to have associations, to have local entities who can interact with us and can liaise us with youngsters who live in the area, in this case, Prague. Prague, but also other cities. It is important to find local partners who can have classes coming from Italy and classes from other regions, meet networks of witnesses that youngsters can meet, and where there is a garden, they can meet these people. And it's also important that this is not a celebration, a simple celebration. It must be exchange in the area. And we can also say that we plan to take part in Erasmus Plus. We are planning in, and our ambition will be to liaise different cities having gardens and other cities planning to create a garden. In this idea, with this idea of exchange, best practice, and dialogue. So we want to try to have this project and to have a network of cities and towns that want to start this kind of experience, like the gardens. Of course, participation is similar to an international partnership. And also in this case, the project will envisage mobility of students from and to partner countries. And so once again, the exchange of knowledge and best practice will be enriching with the associations that will be involved, so that they can help us having youngsters meet and with witnesses in this long journey, and also some schools of the area and interesting collaboration.